Go ahead.
Hi, Michelle Chalice with Healthy Home Habitats. I am here with my friend Sylvie, who's going to help us do a pre-bulb planting because our workshop tomorrow is going to be frigid cold. So normally the night before we would water the entire area, soak it really well, because this particular area has shredded bark mulch. It can be very dense to try to plant through. So we're going to soak this very well, and then we're going to lay out the bulbs, and we'll take a look at the sequence and series of which bulbs we're using here and the types of tools that we can use to plant them. So we have a bunch of different supplies that we're going to be using today. First of all, we have different tools that can be used to plant the bulbs, and there are quite a wide variety out there. So these are step-on tools. They create a hole, and then I like this one because you push it down, and then the dirt will come out the other end. And there are hand tools for the smaller bulbs, and sometimes the soil is loose enough to use these hand towels really effectively. But then there are the situations, especially like here where it's shredded bark mulch, not leaf mulch, that are really tough. And this is obviously a drill with a bulb tip, a bulb drill bit, and a handle here so that you don't wrench your wrist using these. These are really lovely to use, but if you would, please consider using this handle so that you can be sturdy and not wrench your wrist. We also have fertilizer. This is a fertilizer that we will put in the bulbs, and then we have some bone meal as well, which is specifically used for blooming types of plants. I'm sorry, the critters got into those bags. And when we're done, we will top it off with, as I mentioned, the preferred mulch, which is a shredded bark mulch. That will allow the rain to come through, it will allow the oxygen, the areas to breathe, and it will still help to protect the bulbs through the winter. We've got a wicked wind, northwest winter wind, that'll come through here and dry this all out. So this mulch will help to protect that. All right. So we are going to do just one sample area, and what we're doing is taking 5 of each of the different types of bulbs that bloom in different periods. We're in an area that has good drainage. We want to make sure that we can't plant it in a low space that would hold water. And Sylvie asked a very important question: which bulbs are taller than the other? Because if we were in a situation where we had a back wall, we want to make sure that the tallest bulbs are at the back. But in this particular circumstance, we have people looking at this area from literally all sides. So that allows us to mix the different heights and the different bloom periods. So the first are the apricot tulips, and they will bloom in April, May. The little baby, Monadnock bloom the earliest in March and April. They'll be low and they'll cover and they'll spread over time, as well as the other variety of the Monadnock bloom later, much later in May. Now this is a mix of different daffodils that bloom the entire season. So it's all different kinds of them, bloom from very early through till late. And what that allows is for different textures and different colors to be happening at different times throughout the bloom period. So it gives us a longer season. Okay, let's go get some tools. We have a commercial circumstance here. This is not your nice home soil. Sylvie has just tried to use a very nice low-tech tool, and it does not go in nicely. We want to plant the biggest bulbs first, so they're out of the way, and then we'll plant the little bulbs behind it. And we're going to make all of our holes first, and then put in a little bit of fertilizer in each. So I've got a hold here, I've got a hold here. Make sure I'm going the right direction. Make sure my feet are stable and I'm not stepping on any bulbs. It's a little messy, but that's all right. So we're going to dig all these holes here, and then we'll put a little bit of our fertilizer in each. Here. All right. There. And here. All right. Now so here. Come on this side. You don't want to be reaching. That's not first choice. Go ahead. You want to be right over that drill. Okay. About right here. Okay. So it takes it up. We want to make sure that we have the ability to plant each bulb 2 to 3 times its size. So that's the important depth, and it's the same. So this one will only be 2 to 3 times its size, and these holes will do that. You can tell I pulled them back away because we don't want to crush anything, and that's fine. So you can go. So we're going to put just a little bit, just a smidge in each hole of the fertilizer and the bone meal, and that's going to sit with those bulbs all winter long. And then as they start to grow, they will take up those nutrients. Fertilizer is actually helping the plants for next year because the bulb has everything it needs in here right now to bloom for the coming season. But we'd like these to bloom next year and the year after and not have to do it repeatedly over time. Okay, so when I put the bulb in, the bottom, you can see just a little bit of roots going on here. That's what we want to go down, and this little tip is pretty prominent, and that's what's going to go up. Most bulbs, that's clear, and luckily for these that we have, they're very clear, so that's what we're going to do. Beautiful. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now we have our little bulbs. I've actually left these holes open so we can see where they are, and we're just going to toss these between us and plant them with these smaller tools. They don't have to go very deep, right? But each of these have a very good tip and edge, and we'll mix them in between, mostly on the outer edge of our larger bulbs. We want them to go in with that bottom edge where the roots happen down as well. But with the smaller bulbs, it's a little bit hard to make sure that happens exactly. So, and oftentimes nature will figure this out. So you can tell we're not having to be completely exact, but we do want to make sure that they're in there strong and safe.
The right way.
Now I'm going to go a little bit deeper than that. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay. So. All right. Oops, guys. A little bit deeper. It's tough ground. Yeah. All right. Get rid of that. All right. 3, 2, 1. So we're going to close all these up. All of these holes. Make sure the soil goes all the way back down in there. So we don't want any pockets of air if we don't have to have them. It could be that over the winter the freeze thaw will fill those pockets, but they're not first choice. Now that we have this covered, we're going to water for a minute to let that soak in. We're going to put the mulch on top and water once more, and we'll talk a last little bit about protecting bulbs. Done. Okay. So the catch here is to definitely soak. We're not wanting to just water. We're wanting that water to soak all the way into the soil. We'll have a lot of that through the winter, all the rain events, all the snow, hopefully lots of snow events. Now you can go ahead and turn that off. Thank you, Sylvie. Because we don't want the mulch to run away, but we do want that to soak. Now we have our beautiful shredded bark mulch. Go ahead, you can just turn it over. I'm sorry, shredded leaf mulch. Thank you.
Bark mulch is what's here.
Bark mulch is what's here, and it doesn't have any nutrients. So we want this bark mulch to be a blanket. A blanket like, oh my gosh, thank you. Leaf mulch to be a blanket to protect these bulbs through the winter. So we don't want this leaf mulch to be thin.
And water again?
And water again.
Up,
yep,
down,
from up
from the
going down.
side.
Exactly. She's a pro.
I made the mistake more than once.
Right? Beautiful. All right. Now, in a perfect world, we would use this piece of chicken wire. We would roll it out, and I tend to use staples that I wrap with duct tape, a very prominent colored duct tape, and staple it down to keep the squirrels out, to keep all of the other critters out. But we're in a commercial situation, we're not going to do that here. We don't want it to be a trip hazard. Just for you to know at home, this is a great way. You have to remember to pull it up in February, which is not the best, most wonderful time to have to pull something out of the ground. But it is a great way to keep the squirrels from doing damage to everything that you just did. Thank you very much, Sylvie, and everybody else for watching our video on putting in these spring flowering bulbs. We'll come back and take another look in